Welcome back to Living Umpqua, everyone. Thanks for tuning in and showing back up. Again, my name is Gabe, and I will be your host as we go down this rabbit hole together. We've got some information from the Soul Foundation, their November 24 meeting, if you will, of the minds. I've got some highlights from that I think are important that if you're interested in this space, I think that it's important you understand the Soul Foundation and what they're kind of all about, what they're doing. To me, they have put together probably the most structured approach, the most common sense approach to what we should be doing about this UAP, UFO, possible NHI situation. When I say NHI, I mean non human intelligence. You might have already tuned out of the channel. If that's the case, that's okay, because the rest of you are here, and we're going to look at some crazy footage today. So along with that Jeremy Corbell reaction to what the new administration said about the drones, we're also going to take a look at the Soul Foundation stuff, and then I'm going to take a flashback to you to a insane sighting that took place in 2010 in China. You will not believe this footage when you see it. This footage has not been debunked. This was in 2010, before folks had the kind of benefit of AI, I guess, when it comes to faking these things. So we're going to take a look at that as well. And I think you'll be pretty surprised that 15 years ago that sighting took place, and we're still sitting here today wondering, are these things even real? Along with all that, we're going to take a look at the Skywatch program, the latest stuff that Jeremy Baker's doing, and talk a little more about this psionic thing we kind of got into in our last episode. Seems that the psionic deal is gaining more traction. People are starting to talk about it more as far as being able to control craft or some of these UAPs. Sounds pretty crazy, I know, but check out the video at the end. It's pretty wild stuff. All right, stay tuned for this edition, episode 2 of the Living Umpqua UFO Show.
Tonight, an aerial mystery that's been described as unnerving is growing. The FBI now investigating multiple reports of unidentified drones flying over New Jersey, some as large as a small car. And today, a large drone seen here, also described as the size of a small vehicle, flying over a California event where Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin was in attendance.
More drones in the sky, Rockaway, New Jersey.
The New Jersey drones, initially spotted in the northern part of the state, now being reported further south. Sightings also now being reported in New York City. Staten Island Borough President Vito Fossella calling on the FAA and FBI to expand their investigation.
People have seen a number of 15-foot or so wingspan drones hovering around. In this day and age, I just don't think that that's something you take lightly. If it is nothing to be concerned about, someone should come forward and say that.
Residents alarmed by the number of sightings.
One would go over, and then the next one would come, and then the next one, and the next one. So it wasn't like there would be 20 coming at one time.
Jonathan Lace, a pilot himself, shot this shocking video overnight of multiple car-sized drones near the Essex County, New Jersey airport. So concerned by what he saw, he contacted the FAA.
What's been probably the most alarming thing to you?
As a pilot, I can tell you that when you're about to land, the last thing you want to see is something hovering in front of you.
What is that?
With many questions and few answers, residents and officials alike on high alert as the mystery in the sky deepens.
And before I turn to questions, I do have news directly from the President of the United States that was just shared with me in the Oval Office from President Trump directly, an update on the New Jersey drones. After research and study, the drones that were flying over New Jersey in large numbers were authorized to be flown by the FAA for research and various other reasons.
His newly minted press secretary comes out and drops a big egg on our heads and tells us the same shit Biden did. And it just makes it clear, Jeremy, we're never going to know, or we're wrong and there's nothing to know. What do you do with that?
Yeah, I mean, so we're not wrong. This has been an institutionalized secret. There's been a legacy architecture that has protected the UFO truth from the American public. We're in a situation where it's possible the institutionalized secrecy on this issue and others is so powerful that people just fall in line. I hope that's not the case, Chris. I hope, but I'm seeing signaling that it might be.
The FAA says it was just hobbyists and authorized missions and research.
The FAA did not authorize the 17 nights in a row where UFOs were buzzing Langley. They didn't authorize the untrackable drones. So it is a national security issue. Absolutely. These unidentifieds that outpace, outmaneuver, and outperform what we have. And it's not new. You have nuclear bases where, and this is historic fact. You don't got to believe me. This happened in Russia. This happened in the US, probably happened in China. We'll never find out about it, where they turn on and off nuclear weapons. This is directly related to UAP incursions.
Why didn't you say, oh, and those huge ones, those are, we know what those are. So what they don't say matters.
So I get calls from people that their job is to protect the critical infrastructure like power plants, nuclear sites. The employees will call me. I won't call them sources. They're not stepping over the line, but they're informing me as contacts. But they have footage of absolutely non-aerodynamic craft that are coming up out of the water and hovering and loitering over these infrastructure sites. People fighting ships, people over these nuclear bases, that we have these incursions that are UAP, they're UFOs. Our government has to know that. I hope it's not true what you're saying. I hope it's not self-preservation. I hope there's more transparency coming. But I myself have witnessed the shaping of the UAP narrative, the emerging UAP narrative. That was in a CIA document I was exposed to. That is fact. That there is an attempt to shape the narrative for personal benefit, maybe even for financial benefit.
All right, here we go. The gloves are off. I love Jeremy Corbell. I do. I'm going to be honest, though. I cut parts out of that interview where he actually asked Chris Cuomo if politicians are known for overpromising and underdelivering. Come on. That right there makes me wonder about Jeremy Corbell. I love Jeremy Corbell, but come on. I really hope he was kidding, but he did sound dead serious in his inquiry, and that makes me worry a little bit. Moving on, we're going to take a look at the Soul Foundation, as promised earlier. The Soul Foundation is headed up by some, well, very intelligent people. I'll just put it that way. If you don't believe me, give it a Google. It's worth a Google. Check her out. See what you think about the Soul Foundation and who runs it and who's behind it. Let's listen to what the Soul Foundation has to say about how we're going to address this known issue with populations going forward, and what are we going to do if it turns out this actually is non-human intelligence and we need to deal with that information? How are we going to process that? What are we going to do? Take a look. I think the conversation, at least, is very interesting.
All right, so this is sort of the obligatory sort of campaign plan slide that basically shows the lines of effort. And so the premise here is, like, what are we trying to accomplish? And so I would submit that we're trying to accomplish the restoration of proper elected official oversight on the topic, progress on the topic in terms of scientific advancement, and this idea of controlled disclosure, which is a way to mitigate the potential for catastrophic consequence. The subsequent lines of effort, B, C, D, and E, are private sector efforts, things that are directly impactable by the folks in the audience and work that probably has already started in some sense. So from a policy standpoint and from an information standpoint, the idea that there's got to be a control group that's recreated to manage this function. So the problem is, like, how do you actually do that? And how do you actually centralize information on the topic such that progress can be made? But a lot of folks, are probably more interested in what might happen, both in the humanities. So we've got 6 problems with humanities. We've got 6 problems with the natural sciences. We've got 6 problems with industry and society, and then another 6 sort of in healthcare. Essentially, there's sort of 6 reasons for, possible for non-disclosure. The national security reasons pretty well understood. Everybody sort of appreciates that. But there's just this idea that there's lack of a plan. Like, once you announce non-human intelligence, all of a sudden there's thousands of questions, like, what are you going to do about that?
Right.
In some sense, like, it's not a government problem.
Right.
Right, which is really kind of the point of these problems here, which is most of these issues dealing with the plan are addressable in the private sector.
When I was sitting listening to what Riz was talking about, you might say, well, why are you preparing for something that we don't even know is going to happen yet? And yet, if you don't have that preparation, right, that's also going back to this morning with Matt Pines, if there's the 1% chance of complete societal disruption, not just monetary or governmental, then isn't it the purpose of academics to have some of these hypotheses set up and at least potential war-gamed out answers for them?
Recently, there's this idea of out-of-place artifacts, right, that you probably heard about. And so there's pre-dynastic Egyptian vases that date to like 3000 BC. And Flinders Petrie actually found these. And they're kind of hoarded in Zosir's pyramid, so it dates to like 3rd, 4th dynasty. And they've got like 10,000 of them in there. So nobody really knows how this is made. The Egyptologists basically say that they made it with grounding powder and on a potter's wheel or something. But it's impossible to make this object in that way. So that doesn't mean it's NHI, obviously, but it means that, like, the scientific community hasn't engaged with that object, and there's either like an entire material culture associated with that is lost, like the Antikythera mechanism. Some of these things deserve a relook, and to understand where we came from, we probably need to do that. But there's also opportunity space there too, right? So it's sort of a trade. Like, maybe it's a risky endeavor, but it also is maybe career enhancing if you're successful.
Or career destroying.
Correct, right. As the case may be.
Yeah. Well, you could imagine the legs of, if certain legs of certain religions get pulled out from underneath them, there would be considerable accusations of heathenism.
Right. And so this is the potential for also the societal disruption aspect. And so, it remains to be seen if any of that's true, but as a responsible policymaker, you'd have to probably entertain that.
But I want to challenge this whole notion of hysteria that, I think unfortunately for most of the world's population, they're too busy putting bread on the table. And so to the extent that it would be news for a certain cycle or period of time, I don't think it would change people's need to continue to put bread on the table. If anything, they will say, well, I don't have time to deal with that right now.
Okay, a lot of information there from the Soul Foundation. Essentially, let's make a program and a plan, a comprehensive plan, and let's look at each step of this plan and at what point are we going to disclose to the people that there are things out there that indicate non-human intelligence is real. It's clearly coming when you have people that are this intelligent telling us it's coming. So I guess that's one of the messages I want to get across to you all here early, is that non-human intelligence is a thing. What that means, it could mean a lot of things. It could be extraterrestrial, terrestrial, artificial, interdimensional. It could mean so many things. But it's very interesting. It's very interesting to hear them speak about what that means for our history as well. Are these some of these artifacts that we've found in the past? Did non-human intelligence have something to do with those? Or the technologies? Things like the pyramids. A lot of people say they have it figured out. But it's all theory. So there could have been something else involved. And I think what they're trying to say here is that this could change really everything. What Dr. Gary Nolan says at the end is kind of interesting. What Dr. Gary Nolan says towards the end there is that, hey, even when this breaks, because it's going to break, people are going to find out, something's going to happen, and people are going to know. We're to the point where even if a UFO landed on the White House lawn and said hello, a day or two later, people would go back to work, back to their jobs, because we still have to put food on our table. We still got to provide for our kids. We still need to live our life and carry on. And that's what Dr. Gary Nolan said. And you say, well, that sounds crazy. There's no way we could see something that insane and then within a week just be on with our lives. I challenge you, my friends, to watch this video from 2010 in China and then tell me there's no way we could see something crazy like that and then move on with our lives. Watch this video. This is crazy.
There was an unknown object seen in the skies over the airport, so according to our regulations, we had to close the airspace. Aircraft movements were suspended from 8:45 p.m. to 9:41 p.m.
Airport staff say the first reports of the UFO came in just after 8 p.m. from both air traffic controllers and civilians.
I heard that some of the passengers whose flights just landed saw the object, which appeared as glowing lights. It was not a normal civil aviation flight. What it actually was, no one knows.
During the hour in which airspace was closed, 6 flights were grounded and 12 inbound flights had to be diverted to nearby airports at Ningbo, Wuxi and Shanghai. In total, almost 1,000 passengers were inconvenienced by the closure.
A UFO in China's skies forced Zhoushan Airport to stop operations on July 7th. Outbound flights were grounded after the unidentified flying object was detected by a flight crew. The incident has captured the attention of Chinese media. For now, the UFO continues to be a mystery. A spokesman from China's Civil Aviation Administration confirmed to ABC News that the matter is under investigation.
Did you see that? I mean, rewind it and watch it again. I don't mind. Again, that video has not been debunked. That was 2010. That was 15 years ago, friends. 15 years ago. Can you believe it? And we're still here wondering if this phenomena, if there's something to this. There's definitely something to this. We just aren't sure what it is, right? That's why you're watching this video. We're trying to figure out what this is. All right, stick with me. We're going to watch this stuff on Jake Barber's new program, Skywatch. They took Dr. Gary Nolan, who we observed earlier with the Soul Foundation, out using psionic capabilities and a psionic operator. They were able to generate what appeared to be an egg-shaped UAP. Can't make this stuff up. Watch the video Dr. Gary Nolan was there, and you hear his opinion at the end of it.
This crash recovery effort was coordinated with another program that had to do with an interest in how consciousness had an impact or could interface with technology. We were also invited to be part of a program that dealt with the research and development of the building of a system in which a particular human, not non-human, a particular human with a disposition and talent for manipulating their own consciousness could interface with certain technology.
Certainty comes from my firsthand experience in what I term a psionic exploitation program between the years of 2005 and 2010, where I interfaced and worked with non-human intelligence and things like UAP directly. But ultimately, what we were really investigating was how far could we stretch the bounds of human consciousness? How could we get human consciousness to interface directly with things like recovered materials and recovered crafts? What I can tell you from the craft and some of the different projects that we worked on directly is ultimately that they interfaced with us. My consciousness could project into these craft and recovered materials and then access a suite of commands, essentially capabilities to do various things, including piloting. But ultimately, the story is not about piloting some UAP with your mind. This story is much more about what is consciousness.
An aircraft crashed. My team was deployed. We secured the perimeter. We secured that target. We transported that target. We escorted that target and provided security for that target. That target was transported to a facility of a very well-known government-private partner. The decision was made to bring in a team that represented a different private partner who was working on consciousness and the mechanism by which humans could interface with technology. The two were merged, and we were involved with that process.
You were involved. We had a couple of our folks that felt like it was a good time to try to communicate with potentially a craft or an entity that was out there through the methods that they use. You know, I just took a spot up on the roof to be able to observe what's out and around us, and then also have another set of eyes that are up above us. So got on the roof to say, you know, I'll be up here, had my phone, you know, let's be ready to record if something went down, and it did.
The psionic team claimed to be connecting with an object, and our sensor data caught this. While this was happening, Fred went up to see if he could see anything with his naked eye.
So I can hear them talking through certain things, and then he said something like, it's forming. As soon as he said that, I stepped out to look behind me, and that's when I saw whatever it was.
Dr. Nolan was there, and this was his perspective.
I personally didn't see anything in the sky or on the ground, but what I did see was an individual who, in the midst of attempting to call such an object, exactly at the moment that he said he was interacting with something, the individual on the roof who had the cameras saw something. When we reviewed what it was that the person on the roof had seen, something showed up. I mean, it was fleeting, but it was clearly not a bug. And so what do I have? I have a person who claims to be doing something. It was clear that he was in distress at the moment of the supposed interaction. And at that moment, something is seen. What do you have? You have a correlation.
That was from Jake Barber and the Skywatcher team, who apparently you can call on if you would like to try to call down a UAP or access a UAP. Sounds very interesting. If you go to the Skywatcher YouTube page, looks like that page just kind of started. They've just got a couple videos up. One thing's for sure, they know how to drop that dramatic music. Gotta love it, right? Gets you so into it. I think what we learned in this episode is we got a long way to go down this rabbit hole, right? We've got video from 2010 in China that it's almost like I saw it before but forgot I saw it. I mean, it's crazy. There is something to what Dr. Nolan's saying when even if some crazy event happened, people would kind of have to just keep carrying on with their lives because that's all we got. Anyway, thanks for hanging with me this time. I'll see you next time around. I appreciate you watching the Living Umpqua UFO UAP show. Remember to like and subscribe, especially to like. I really appreciate it. Have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you next time on episode 3.